Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special council meeting. I would like to advise you that this meeting is being live streamed, audio and video recorded, and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. And for more information about this bylaw, you can contact the clerk's office. So we have a full council meeting tonight with Councillor Ices joining us virtually, and I will ask Councillor Ices to please provide us with the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Worship. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the first people of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Hanashuiba peoples of Beausoleil First Nation, the Chippewa of Rama First Nation, and Chippewa of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today, and we are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. There is one item on the agenda tonight, and it concerns an application for an amendment to the town's community planning permit system, the Our Shore Bylaw 062-17 and Class 1 permit. And there is a recommendation that may be considered by council this evening. However, should any concerns be raised that cannot be addressed by staff or the consultant, council may ask that a recommendation be brought forward for consideration at a future council meeting. Could I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as circulated? Moved by Councillor Drudge, seconded by Councillor Constantine. All those in favor? That is carried. Now I would ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest on this item this evening. Seeing none, we'll start with a presentation from staff and the consultant, and then we will have an opportunity to hear from members of the public. All speakers will have 5 minutes to ask their questions or express their concerns, and then staff or the consultant will respond where possible. Should anyone need to speak for a second time to identify an issue that has not already been raised or to receive clarification, they'll be given additional time after everyone's had an opportunity to speak once. After all members of the public have provided comments, council will provide any comments it may have. Should any of the public watching the live stream wish to comment, they can email Clerk's Services, and these comments will be provided to council and town staff and will be taken into consideration before council makes a final decision. You may also be added to the circulation list as an interested party, and the email will be listed on the PowerPoint during the meeting and is available on tonight's agenda, which can be found on the town's website. We'll now hear from the clerk, Ms. Thoma, on how public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Your Worship. In accordance with Section 1.4.4 and 2.14 of the CPPS bylaw, notice for this public meeting was provided by the placement of signs on the street and lake frontages of the property on May 15, 2025. Information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page.
Thank you, Ms. Thoma. Has Clerk's Services received any correspondence concerning this item?
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, the Clerk's Office has received one piece of correspondence from Diana Stinson, dated June 1st, 2025, where she expressed concern about the proposed 75% interior side yard setback reduction and stated that a reduction of no more than 50% should be allowed, as it sets an undesirable precedent for new construction in the neighborhood. Also, members of the public may still provide comments or register their interest regarding this item during this meeting or until council makes a decision by contacting the clerk's office.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our presenters regarding this application. First, we'll hear from Ingrid Lee, Development Planner for the Town of Innisfil, and she'll provide a high-level summary of the application. Then Nick Scarrett, Senior Planner for Innovative Planning Solutions, will provide further planning context on behalf of the applicant. So first, we'll go to Ingrid whenever you're ready. Ms. Lee?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council staff, and members of the public. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider a proposed amendment to the Community Planning Permit System, or CPPS bylaw, for lands municipal known as 6050 Cedarville Drive. The purpose of the application is to amend the CPPS bylaw number 062-17 to facilitate the construction of a new two-story dwelling and a detached garage with a sleeping cabin above, and also the reconstruction of the existing non-complying on-land boathouse, 1 meter inland, and expand the deck area attached to the boathouse. The applicant is seeking a CPPS bylaw amendment for 6 variances for a under section 5.2.2 to decrease the interior side yard setback of the boathouse from 5 meter to 2.33 meter on the west side as a result of its relocation 1 meter inland. Under section 4.17.4 to increase floor area of existing non-complying boathouse by deck area enlargement of 8.7 square meter. Under section 5.1.2b to decrease interior side yard setback of the dwelling from 6 meter to 1.5 meter on the west side, to decrease interior side yard setback of the front covered porch of the dwelling from 4 meter to 1.5 meter on the west side, to decrease interior side yard setback of the waterfront deck, covered porch, and balcony of the dwelling from 4 meter to 1.5 meter on the west side, to decrease interior side yard setback of the deck of the boathouse from 4 meter to 1.87 meter on the west side. The applicant is also seeking a Class 1 permit for 2 variances under Section 5.2.6 to increase maximum height of the sleeping cabin on top of the detached garage from 4 meter to 5.84 meter, to decrease the front yard setback of the sleeping cabin on top of the detached garage from 5 meter to 3.04 meter. We know that the Class 1 permit doesn't require a public meeting. So this property is fronts onto Cedarville Drive, which is a local road. The neighboring property is generally like residential in nature. The slide highlights the criteria that will be reviewed by staff. Staff have reviewed the application under Section 1.9 and 2.14 of the CPPS bylaw for a CPPS bylaw amendment and the Class 1 permit, and have determined that the proposal meets these criteria as detailed in the staff report DSR-079-25 onto this agenda. Sorry. Regarding the comments received, we have received one comment from Curve Lake First Nation dated May 14, 2025. They have inquired whether an archaeological assessment has been completed for the increased footprint of the boathouse resulting from the deck enlargement. Staff have responded by email advising that a condition regarding a scoped archaeological assessment will be required prior to building permit issuance. Clerk have already provided the details regarding comments received from the owner of 613 Cedarville Drive and 619 Cedarville dated June 1st, 2025. They object the proposed reduction of the west interior side yard setback from 6 meter to 1.5 meter due to concerns about overbuilding and potential negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. It recommends a minimum setback of 3 meter to reduce impact on adjacent properties and avoid setting an undesirable precedent. So staff have analyzed and support the reduced interior side yard setback as detailed in the staff report. We also received one comment on the Get Involved Innisfil website dated June 4th, 2025. The residents have concerns include the number of the trees to be removed on the west side and the reduced west side yard setback. So I will defer the question to the applicant to address like how many trees will be removed. So staff recommend council approves the bylaw amendment and class 1 permit this evening if there are no objections from council or the public, or if any comments can be addressed tonight, council can defer the application to a future council meeting with future recommendation report. So now I will hand it to the applicant for the presentation. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you don't look like Mr. Scarrett.
No, I'm Ashley. Ashley Blow. Good evening, council, staff, mayor, and the public. My name is Ashley Blow, here with Nick Scarrett with Innovative Planning Solutions, here on behalf of the owners for a proposed bylaw amendment and Class 1 permit for the lands located at 650 Cedarville Drive. There we go. This slide illustrates the land use designation and zoning that currently apply. As shown on the left, the lands are designated as shoreline residential, as per the Town of Innisfil official plan. On the right, the lands are captured under the community planning permit system area in the town shoreline bylaw. Surrounding land uses are similar and include single-family dwellings and associated accessory structures. No changes in land use are proposed through these applications. The conceptual site plan shown here results in the demolition of the existing detached dwelling for the construction and expansion of one 2-story detached dwelling, as seen in the middle image. The bottom right image demonstrates the demolition of the existing sleeping cabin for the construction of a detached 2-car garage with the sleeping cabin above. And the top right shows the reconstruction of the existing on-land boathouse. There we go, and these are the renderings for the proposed 2-story detached residential dwelling. These are the renderings for the garage and sleeping cabin. In the top images, you can see the dwelling in the background. And then these are the boathouse renderings also with the dwelling in the background on the top 2 images there. As shown here, we have identified the required variations for the proposed development. We have identified the deficiencies as numbered for dwelling side yard reduction west, porch, deck, and balcony side yard reduction west, boathouse deck side yard reduction west, boathouse side yard reduction west, boathouse deck area increased, detached garage and sleeping cabin height, and front yard setback for the sleeping cabin. The proposal will have the ability to possess access to the shoreline, functional habitable space for residents and guests, updated septic system positioned away from Lake Simcoe, increased native vegetation plantings within the shoreline, and it will contribute to the existing characteristics of the neighborhood. In response to the comment letter received by planning staff, because the existing buildings are legal non-complying, the proposed alterations and expansion are permitted. The site plan is consistent with the current bylaw of how setbacks are intended to be measured from the nearest wall of a structure. According to the CPPS bylaw, a second story can be added to the small addition on the west side without needing a variance for the side yard. The proposed two-story dwelling is within the height requirements, and the bylaw does not require a variance for the proposed height. The reduced side yard setback is consistent with what is found throughout the neighborhood and aligned with the draft CPP bylaw, which allows for a 1.5 meter interior side yard setback. Although this draft bylaw is not yet in effect, the proposal meets the standard. It maintains the approximate historical footprint of the dwelling while improving access and allowing for more vegetation along the east side of the narrow, undersized lot. Overall, this proposal complies with the current bylaw and aligns with the direction of the new draft framework. It's consistent with the township's planning goals for the future. As council is familiar, any variations from the CPPS bylaw must meet the criteria established in section 1.9 and 2.14 of the town's CPPS bylaw. I will briefly review these for your consideration. The proposed application meets the general intent of the town's CPPS bylaw through the proposed dwelling, detached garage with sleeping cabin above, and on-land boathouse are appropriate for the lands while enhancing vegetative features and the shoreline. The proposal considers the historical development of the area, balancing modern needs with existing standards. The proposal demonstrates functionality with all other considerations being accounted for, as demonstrated through the design, as it maintains the overall general intent of the bylaw with the request for an amendment and minor variations. The proposal maintains compatibility with the established residential neighborhood along Lake Simcoe, and therefore the development maintains the general intent of the official plan. The proposal improves upon the existing shoreline by reducing site disturbance and increases vegetative materials. In conclusion, the application requests a CPPS bylaw amendment and Class 1 permit to facilitate the development of a single detached dwelling unit, a detached garage with a sleeping cabin above, and an on-land boathouse relocation. The proposed development promotes efficient use of land and resources while remaining compatible with the surrounding residential uses. It is our opinion that the application represents good planning, and we respectfully request council consider the approval of this application. Lastly, I just want to thank planning staff for their time invested into the application, and we've reviewed the circulated comments and report and have no objections to the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blow. We'll now hear next from members of the public who have questions or would like to provide comments regarding this matter. Anyone? Questions or comments? Please come forward to the microphone if you would, so that visitors who are watching on live stream can hear and see you. Thank you.
Always an awkward one. I've been in front of lots of councils, but not for this. So I'll do my best, and I know I've got 5 minutes, so hopefully it'll be shorter than that. I have spoken with Ingrid this morning to tell her that we do have a letter which we will submit with some of our concerns or more questions. So, you know, I'm excited to have a new neighbor. I just want to say that first, and I'm excited that she's building something she's, you know, excited about. I guess I should say I'm fortunate that I am not on the west side. I am on the east side of 650 at 646. So it does, you know, whatever I do affects the applicant, and whatever she does affects us. Our family's been coming for over 100 years, and so we have some history at Big Cedar Point for sure. There's been a lot of changes, and I embrace change for sure, but I also understand that the lake is precious, and we've had a lot of large structures go up around us that have seemed to be, you know, crazy compared to what we've had in the past. And that's just my kind of crazy, not someone else's, obvious their desire. I guess our number one concern, which really wasn't addressed, and maybe you can speak to some of this, is the drainage. So when the applicant purchased the property a couple of years ago, we had a 220-foot hedge along the property line that was about 10 feet wide. It could have been wider, and so it absolutely impeded on her property, and she only has 50 feet, and I understand that setbacks, make it impossible to build if there's an 18-foot or 6-meter setback. However, I wouldn't see the proposed variances as minor. They're quite substantial to go from 6 meters to 1.5. And I mean, I don't want to go through all of them. You've heard them, but for us, when the applicant moved in, we absolutely agreed with her to take down the hedge. And we split a fence and put a fence up. However, I can tell you that a 220-foot hedge drank a lot of water. So our property, sadly, in some ways, sits very low to the 2 on either side. So it's not just 650, but the property on the other side, which is a full 2-story, full basement that was previously owned by one of my cousins, sits high as well. So when the hedge came down, you could really see, and ours has really become a floodplain. I mean, it's crazy. Like, our car sunk right into the ground. We had to have it towed. And so our concern is that there is a provision for an appropriate drainage system that is going to ensure that it doesn't, become a worse situation. When my cousin built beside us, she did do some drainage systems, so we have some vents on our roadside lawn that helps with the drainage, but it just becomes flooded. And if we're down low and they're up higher, it will be a continued issue. So that is a great concern for us. We're ecstatic that she's building 2 stories and not 3, so I can say that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm sure it will be tasteful and beautiful. And I think the side setbacks, although they don't impact our property on the east side, I think getting that close to the property line sets some difficult precedences for future builds. And I think when I look at this bylaw, and after speaking with Ingrid, I think I have a better understanding that these bylaws were probably put in place maybe when there were 100-foot properties and not so many 50-foot properties. And I understand how difficult it is for people to find ways to build structures that they can enjoy and live in and enjoy with their family. I would like to at least speak to site-specific versus changing the whole bylaw is understanding this application. We have no objections to the applicant building the 2-story, as I said. I think it's in the town's best interest to consider some of the setbacks, and carefully so, given the historical. I know we've got a report that says historically, but I think a lot of people haven't been around for 100 years. And I've been certainly going to Big Cedar for over 50 years, so I feel I have a voice that has some experience for sure. I'm not sure if I'm missing something in particular. This is my husband, and also has been a great support for me, because I do not want to create issues with a new neighbor. This is a very, I don't know, uncomfortable situation for sure. And I've, enjoyed meeting the candidate and working with her, and I'm sure that will continue, but I do want to raise some of those concerns.
Thank you very much. And if we could have your name for the record, please.
Yeah, the name is Sarah Dame, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Sarah Dame, and my mother, Mary Dame. And I would say that David Stinson, Diana Stinson had a good summary of the concerns that I'm hearing from lots of neighbors. So everybody reaches out to us because we live on one side of the property. So I said that I would come and share, and for us it definitely, those are our concerns, drainage being the #1 piece for sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and other members that are here. My name's Judy Langstaff. I'm a cousin of Sarah that has just spoken. I have been here a lot longer than she has, and I think every summer of my long life I've been at Big Cedar Point. The property was originally purchased by my grandfather when my father was a young person. So we have a long history there. I simply want to say I support what the Stinson submission said. I am sympathetic to Sarah's concern about the drainage. I'm at 628 Cedarvale. We have had a beautiful redevelopment of the property toward the point from my place. It adhered to the existing bylaws and setbacks and so on. The individual that was in charge of the building was exemplary in being a good neighbor and so on, and that went up without a whimper. It was excellent, and it's beautiful, tasteful, fits right in. Some of the structures that are going up now do not seem to be compatible at all with what has been there. I'm not thinking back to the little one-story frame cottages that were, you know, they've had their day. But some of the redevelopment, in my opinion, is not consistent with what should be there on this precious waterfront. So I support the Stinsons. I support what Sarah has said. I urge you to stick with the existing bylaws and not keep pushing and let more happen. I also wonder, I know everybody's time is precious. I wonder if you get an opportunity to go and see these sites and actually look at them and eyeball them and see what that means to the neighborhood. So thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else who would like to provide comment this evening? Yep, please. If you could come to the mic, just so that if there's people on live stream, they can hear you.
Sorry, the one question I didn't ask, and I'm not sure who can answer, is we didn't really talk about the lakefront setback. So if I understand, currently the bylaw is, I think in feet, so about 90 feet is the setback, and this proposal is requesting 60. Is that correct?
Ms. Lee?
Yeah, thank you,
I think
Worship,
that's what
through
you said
you.
today, so
Yes.
that's what I've written down. So I just want to make sure, because if the lake, I mean, you also shared with me, I asked about the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, which if I understand correctly, has approved this application. So if they have, that seems great. I just wanted to clarify the lake setback, if it's now requesting 60 feet.
Mr. Scarrett, Ms. Lee, whoever can answer that question.
Thank you, Your Worship, to help answer that question. It is a variation to the standards, but not the bylaw itself that would be heard at council tonight. So it is a class 2, and it's going from 30 meters to 19.9 meters. Sorry, I'm not familiar with feet, but that is, as council's aware, a class 2 is subject to staff approvals, but there is a slight deviation from 30 meters to 19.9 meters.
Thank you. If you want to have a question, could you please come up to the mic so that we can hear you? Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name's John Pierce. I do not own the cottage at 646, but I'm there every summer. So our questions were mainly with respect to the bylaw change. Does this mean that the entire, I saw the picture earlier, the entire area affected by the bylaw, does that mean that other construction will be able to be permitted at only 1.5 meters? When the existing bylaw, the existing zoning bylaw apparently says 6 meters? And our concerns previously, we also mentioned, is there a way to make this either site-specific to this, like, I've done some work with the town of Aurora in the past, and sometimes when there's a variation to the bylaw, we do it as a site-specific variation, because there is a huge difference between a 6-meter setback on a 50-foot frontage as opposed to a 6-meter setback on a 100-foot frontage. And perhaps there could be an amendment to the bylaw such that on properties of 50 feet, we could make something in compliance with the request, But the 100 feet, I sure don't want a 90-foot building on a 100-foot lot, because we've now changed the bylaw to allow for a 5-foot side yard variance setback on a 100-foot lot. I wonder if there's a way to amend the bylaw such that for 50-foot lots, this could become approved. We have no objection to that. But on anything more than 50, perhaps, we aren't sure if that's appropriate to only have a 4-meter setback on a 100-foot lot.
Thank you.
Sorry to trouble you.
No worries, no worries. I'm going to try to start to unpack that a bit, but then I'm going to leave it definitely to the staff to get into the nitty-gritty. So we're at a point right now where we're working with a bylaw, the CPPS bylaw, which was passed in 2017. So that bylaw we've worked with for a number of years, and we are currently working towards updating our CPPS bylaw, shoreline bylaw, and including other places too, most of Alcona. And we've been working on that for a while. We've had several public meetings, or at least one public meeting. And we are, one of the comments, and you can find it on our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch when we had our public meeting for the new bylaw. One of the comments we got from a lot of people were too much height. Too much height. So the change in the new proposed bylaw, which hasn't been passed yet, brings down the height and allows wider, so wider but shorter. And that got us praise from some members of the public who've been following along and thought that that was a better way to go. So under this bylaw as it is now, if I'm understanding correctly, if they were to adhere to the setbacks, they could go higher if they wanted to. Am I right? And I'm going to throw it to our manager of planning, Mr. Correa. And please, don't correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, don't let that stand.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, no problem. So you are correct, and there's a range of permitted heights between Class 1 and Class 2 that are higher than the one proposed tonight within the current bylaw, particularly when you're meeting setbacks. And I'll point out the current requirement of 6 meters on both sides of the property has been something that has commonly come back to council, because when you have a 15-meter product, if you have 6 meters on each side, it only leaves 3 meters for the home. And so we've had a number of Class 1 amendments. We've had a number of Class 1 amendments and permits that have been considered in the past. And so right now in the current bylaw, a Class 2 variation can go as high as 11 meters. However, in what's being proposed, but not in effect, is to decrease those proposed heights. The staff report before council tonight is ultimately based on the in effect bylaw, and that's why the variations maybe seem to be numerically high, but it also factors in the fact that this property in particular is currently legal non-complying. As well, I'll mention the neighboring property, at least on the west side, is also legal non-complying, and that a portion of that dwelling provides 0.38 meters, actually less than 1 meter for a portion of the building. And so the existing conditions don't meet today's bylaw. And in terms of what we're proposing to bring forward to council for the new bylaw, you are correct in that we've said more generous widths of the home, resulting in decreased setbacks, but as a result of that, also decreasing the as-of-right heights, particularly the heights that can be considered by staff without a council approval. So I think you're correct.
Thank you. So one further question from me, and then I'll go to the rest of council. So if this applicant were to walk away and wait until if the new CPPS bylaw were in play and reapplied, how many of these conditions would go away?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, I would have to review the drawings against the new bylaw. I believe the side yard setback would comply. The building height being less than 8 meters would comply. I would have to check some of the other variations.
Okay, thank you. So before I go to council, sorry, I just had, go ahead, Director Lee.
Mayor Dolan, I did want to come back to the member of the public's other question about, is this site-specific and how does this apply? So when a CPPS permit is issued by the town, it is issued, assuming it was approved by council, it's issued for the relief that's been requested based on the drawings that have been submitted. So it's specific to what is being proposed in the drawings that you have seen. So those relief and those setbacks would not apply to a different type of structure. That would have to come back for reapproval by the town.
Thank you, Director Lee. I have a short memory. So before I go to members of council, was there any other members of the public who would like to speak? Ms. Toma, have we had anybody who's watching the live stream who has provided comment?
Thank you, Worship. No, I have not received any emails requesting to provide comment.
Thank you. I'll go to council. Any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Waters?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm looking for some clarification. Looking at the drawings, and usually I'm pretty good at reading drawings, but I'm having a difficult time. The existing buildings that are there, the garage that's out the front, the main house, and the boathouse, are they all now currently within the current setbacks?
Through Mayor Dolan, that's correct. It's legal non-conforming, the current structures.
Okay, all right. So, my biggest question is, I guess, is mostly for the garage, which is out front. They're asking for a 1.5 meter setback on the one side. Is there any reason the garage cannot be expanded to the other side and leave the setback that's currently there?
Through Mayor Dolan, I might get the applicant's consultant to help answer it. It's my understanding part of that is related to lot grading. However, I'll let Mr. Scarrett speak to that.
Mr. Scarrett?
Through your worship, to address the question for council. The purpose of that is to utilize the existing footprint of the existing sleeping cabin that's on site. And by doing that, it still keeps uniformity along the street while allowing access for ATVs or pedestrian access along the east side to the shoreline while allowing additional vegetation to the east property line. So we're trying to keep as much of the design in line with what's existing while still promoting new structures and new services.
Okay, I'm just going to seek some clarification because I'm looking at the drawing right now. The box which is hashed on the drawing here, is that the existing garage that's there now, and the gray shaded area is going to be the expanded version?
Through your worship, yes.
Okay, so my question still stands then, is that it looks like you have about almost 22 feet, dealing in feet. I guess that would be somewhere around 4.5, 5 meters, 4 meters, somewhere around there? Just so we're speaking same language. Yes. Seems to have a lot more leeway for expanding the garage that way as opposed to taking it closer and asking for a setback change from 6 meters to 1.5.
Detached accessory structures are a lower setback requirement.
Okay.
They're about 3 to 4 meters from the side property line. And to keep the existing uniformity on the west side to the dwelling, we've been proposing it shifted to the side for access, grading, vegetation purposes.
Thank you.
Councillor Saunders and then Councillor Drudge.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just to let you know, I did visit the site, so I know it's a very narrow and long property. My main concern is that with the three new buildings on it, I concur with the residents about the drainage because it's going to be wall to wall, side to side, front to back, house, garage, boathouse. I think that needs to be, the drainage impact needs to be brought into play. And I also think that they're asking for a lot of variations on this property. So, and I concur with the neighbors too, that just bringing it down to the setback as small as it is, I think they should be, like Councillor Waters says, move it over more to the center.
Councillor Drudge.
Thanks, Your Worship. I have two questions. First one's about the distance from the garage to the road. It seems to be 3.04 meters. I visualize snow removal in the wintertime, like where you don't typically can't leave your property, so where would you put that snow would be my one question. Second question is the boathouse in the rear. It's a living dwelling. It's not a boathouse. Like, can I have some clarification on what the definition of a boathouse is, just for some clarity?
Mr. Scared or Mr. Correa, whoever wants to answer that, or Mr. Montgomery? Well, everybody gets a turn.
Through your worship. In respect to the first question, garages are typically set back 6 meters. We see that in subdivisions, and we see that in this bylaw. There is a Class 2 variation through staff that can approve a variation down to 3 meters. In this case, this is what the applicant is requesting. They do meet the parking requirements inside the garage because they just need 2 spaces. We have approved this before. It's a staff variance. It's not a council variance. So we do have obviously concerns. There's a lot of conditions along the shoreline where there are garages that are abutting almost, within 1 meter of the street. So we do take that into consideration when we're looking at these things. With respect to the second question, which is the definition of a boathouse, there is a definition. I don't know if Ingrid, you could, and I can quote it here, section 3.6 of the bylaw, an accessory building located on land or in Lake Simcoe used for the storage of boats and marine-related equipment, and which does not include sleeping accommodations, kitchen or washroom facilities, or any potable water, natural gas, or sanitary servicing. So it could be used for marine storage.
Okay, thanks for that answer. Yeah, I looked it up and it said for the use of storing a boat. So you can also use it for marine equipment, kayaks, etc. So as long as there's no sleeping dwellings or potable water, I guess you would be okay in that instant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
I was just curious if the applicant had thought of the idea of, as Ms. Stinson had said, to go the side setback of 3 meters as opposed to the 1.5. Was that something as a happy medium, so to speak, that could be done for this property?
Through your worship, to answer that question as well as I'll loop back to a snow storage question. The current bylaw states 6 meter side yard setbacks. Obviously that facilitates a 3 meter wide dwelling in the case of a legal non-conforming property such as this outside of a settlement area. So as staff has reiterated that these types of variations have been coming to council quite frequently, and I think that's caused a revision through the draft CPPS bylaw that we heard at the public meeting on May 21st, that reducing heights and reducing side yard setbacks is a more feasible approach. So in the context of this proposal before council tonight, the side yard setbacks and height meet that new draft bylaw. So essentially we wouldn't be here asking for a reduced side yard setback. The existing side yard setback from the existing dwelling is 2.1 meters, and we're going to 1.5. That's a 30% reduction. So numerically, we see in the bylaw, it says 6 meters, and numerically it looks very large, but in reality, on the site, in a legal non-conforming property that's very narrow, outside of a settlement area, the context of the bylaw don't really apply. And I think that's where staff is going towards amendments to the shoreline bylaw to address those unique situations on legal non-conforming properties. So by shifting the building to the center, we're actually maybe, yes, making the west side yard setback a little bit better, but we're sacrificing the east side yard setback where it's 4.5 meters that offer availability for increased vegetation, grading, and access. Going back to council's question about grading, part of our submission, we provided a grading plan, and as per the building department would be looking at that grading plan and making any comments. Comments from the building department are indicating that they're satisfied with the grading plan provided. Mind you, that'll be re-reviewed through the building permit process. So we take that grading from an existing condition that may be problematic, and turn it into something more positive for the abutting neighbors that have expressed that here today. Going back to snow storage and the placement of the front garage, as Councillor Waters indicated, the side yard with an increased side yard setback by keeping a historic location on the side offers the ability to provide for snow storage, grading, vegetation access. So keeping in context of the existing neighborhood feel while offering benefits to the property and abutting properties there, it's a net positive with respect to a legal non-conforming property in an area that is in transition.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just for some clarification, I'm looking at the plans here. It's actually 1.8 meters off the property line for the garage, correct?
On the west side, yes. The east side is about 4+. So that's where we would be storing snow or increased grading or access.
Yeah, I guess because we were talking about 1.5 meter setback off the garage to the east side. Yes. It's actually 1.8, correct?
On the west side?
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
yes, it's increased from the existing proposal for the dwelling. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Seeing none, I've lost my place in my script. We'll now go to the recommendation to consider this application. Clerk Thoma.
Thank you, Your Worship. Did Council wish to have the original recommendation, or would they like a revised recommendations for all comments to be received and brought back to a future Council meeting?
Let's put up the original, and then we'll go to debate on that. So, Council, the original recommendation was to pass tonight. What the clerk's asking is, do we want to put forward a recommendation to send it back to staff for further information and bring it back to another meeting? So I'm be looking for some direction. Councillor Constantine? Councillor Saunders?
Yes, I'd like them to put a recommendation forward that all the questions get answered and they bring it back to us in a future meeting.
So we have a mover and a seconder for the revised recommendation then. Moved by Councillor Constantine, second by Councillor Saunders. So now discussion on the revised recommendation, please. Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. My only concerns is would this be time sensitive for the person that's wanting to move forward with this project? Would it hinder them being able to proceed in the summer, like break ground? I don't know if Nick could answer that. Like, when would this come back to council, I guess is what I'm asking.
So we'll ask for an approximate when it could come back for council, and then we'll ask Mr. Scarrett if that would have an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. We have one more council meeting before council's recess on June 25th, but I am mindful of everything that's on that agenda, so we will have to see if we can bring it forward based on the comments we've heard tonight and whether there's enough time for staff to provide an updated report. Assuming we can do that, that may change Mr. Scarrett's answer, because ultimately, other than that, it would be August 16th, I believe is the date.
Mr. Scarrett?
Through your worship, I can appreciate council's concerns with the questions tonight, and a lot of those things are addressed in staff's report as well as our report. We'd be more than happy to get this back to council as soon as possible. As you can imagine, scheduling trades and all that work associated with approval periods and building permits do take time. It is our client's intention to start demolition and construction as soon as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just so I'm clear, when this comes back, it's going to come back with all the answers to the questions that we asked tonight, right? The drainage and all the questions that the residents brought forward? Yep. Thank you.
It would address any of the concerns that was responded to here at the public meeting, as well as the correspondence that we received earlier this month. Can I ask, when do we anticipate the draft CPPS, when do we anticipate the CPPS newly coming to council for a vote?
Mayor Dolan, it is scheduled to come June 25th.
Councillor Drudge and then Councillor Waters. And then Councillor Ices. Sorry, Councillor Ices, I wasn't looking at the screen. Councillor Waters?
I think that the main concern from the residents here was around drainage. That seemed to be number one. So I think they need an answer that that's going to be handled properly before we take a look at it. So I think the setbacks were more minor issues, but I think the drainage needs to be, in their minds, needs to be settled so that they can feel comfortable and build that good relationship with their neighbor. And I think hopefully the staff can get back to us on that. Thank you.
Director Lee?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Following up on Councillor Waters' comment, from a planning staff perspective, we're going to be identifying, similar to Mr. Scarrett, that is addressed through the building permit, which is a future process. There is a lot grading requirement. It has to be reviewed and approved by the building department, and then the construction has to occur in alignment with what has been approved by the town. But beyond that, that's what the staff report is going to say coming back to council.
Thank you. Councillor Drudge, did you remember? And then I'll go to you, Councillor Ices. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks, Your Worship. My question's around the capabilities of the resident doing the demolition part of their project. Could they go ahead with that before we approve their final design on their new construction?
Director Lee?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, Mr. Scarrett may want to speak to that in terms of the risk to the applicant on, demolishing without having certainty on a CPPS permit.
Yeah, through your worship to compliment, thank you, staff. Our client would not look for a demolition of the existing structures and turning off those services in anticipation of lining up utilities, contractors, building permit approvals, and any approvals through council through the CPPS bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I wanted to echo, some of those comments of Councillor Waters and also staff's response that, if the setbacks were going to be approved in the new bylaw anyway, I think council should think really hard about holding this up, because I think our intent is to move toward that new bylaw, which helps us out in these circumstances. And with the neighbors' concerns around drainage being addressed in the building permit process, those concerns can be looked after there. And as council, we should not get in the way of this because of where we're at with our bylaws. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Any final questions or comments? Clerk Toma?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to bring to council's attention that we are in special council, that if a member does wish to have this withdrawn, if council consents to withdraw, that you could vote on the original recommendation, given the comments by Director Lee.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders.
I would withdraw, considering her recommendations from Andrea. Sorry.
And Councillor Constantine. Could you speak into the mic? Thank you.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Okay, so this recommendation's been withdrawn. Is there a mover and a seconder to approve the CPPS? Councillor Drudge and Councillor Zanella. Any final questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? That is carried. Thank you very much. Council thanks everyone for their participation, and we will now go to the confirming bylaw and adjournment. So moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Drodge, the bylaw number 048-25 being the confirming bylaw of the special council meeting held on June 4th, 2025 be adopted, and that this meeting be adjourned at 7:24 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, and have a good rest of the evening.